I want to try to get that down a little bit. But we're going to be talking about two things. We're going to be talking about copying objects, both permanents and spells. And then we're going to be talking about some of the more common keywords that you might be facing here in Standard. And we're just going to be going over some of the very general ones. But let's start off things first by copying. And copying is one of the more, I won't say confusing, but I will say one of the more less intuitive things in Magic, because there are things that we do copy, things that we don't copy, and things that you might think we do, but we don't, and things that you might think that we don't, but we do. Stay with me here. But can anybody tell me, just right off the bat, let's say, I'll start my screen share now, because now that makes a little more sense. Pull up my Discord. There we go. Turn on screen share. Crap, I don't have the right window open. I am everywhere today. I'm sorry, guys. Start local game one. Let's see. Let's load that deck. We're ready to start. Huzzah. Alrighty. There we go. And turn on screen share. Application window. That one. Share. Can everyone see my cockatrice screen now? I hope so. I hope everyone can see it.
Yes, I can see it.
Yay, fantastic. Alrighty. So, put you in my hand. Alrighty. So I control a bear cub. Cute little tutu bear. And back in, what is that? Crap, what expansion is that? It's not Fallen Empires. The Homelands or one starter set? I don't know. It's the one that had the actual little dagger and the shield when it came to the power.
Portal.
Portal! Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I miss this. I don't know why, but I like it. But I've got Tutu Bear Cub on the field, hanging out, doing his thing. And I decide that I'm going to cast for free, because I don't have any mana. I'm going to cast Clone. So what happens?
Well, you may have it enter the battlefield as a copy of your bear cub. It becomes a 2/2. It takes on all the attributes of bear cub, except I believe it maintains its 4 CMC.
No, it becomes 2.
So, yes, I'll have it enter as a bear cub. I do believe that would be not very smart of me if I just had it come in as a 0/0. Because then it would slowly go over here. But no, we're just going to keep it as, I'm going to have it enter as a bear cub. So what are the characteristics now of my clone? What is it?
Is a 2/2 green creature bear with
What's its name?
text. No keywords, any of that fun stuff.
Right, what's its name?
Bear cub.
Its name is Bear Cub.
What's its mana cost?
2. 1 and a green.
Say 1 and a green. What's its card type?
It's a creature bear.
Okay, subtype, being a bear, yeah. Does it have any rules text?
No, because the bear cub does not have rules text.
Okay. Power and toughness?
2/2.
It's a 2/2. Yep. When we copy something, we are essentially copying the printed card. Everything that is pretty much printed on the card, all of the text printed on the object, that's what we copy. So we would indeed copy the mana cost. So I would have essentially another one of these guys. They will... they can be modified by other copy effects, by its face down status. You know, if Bear Cub was face down, if it was a 2/2 colorless creature, that's what we would be copying instead. If it has any type of like as blah 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 enters the battlefield, or as blah 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 is turned to face up, if they set power and toughness, there's a few other things that can affect the copying process. Effects like type changing, text changing effects, statuses, and counters, those are not copied. So for example, let's say my Bear Cab was tapped, and then I played Clone. Does Clone enter tapped?
No, it's still untapped.
Yeah, it's still an untapped clone. Does not copy the status. It just copies the printed card. It is the bear cub. Won't copy it being tapped. Let's see. Let me check my notes here. Does this enter as a copy? Does this enter as a bear cub? Or does this enter as a clone and then becomes a bear cub?
It would enter as clone and then become bear cub due to its effect.
Why would you think that?
No,
No, because it can't enter the battlefield.
it directly says it enters as the bear cub. It is
Yeah,
just
you were
bear
right.
cub. It is never clone.
There is never a point in time where clone is clone if I am having it enter as a bear cub. It will enter in as bear cub. Anything that would trigger with, if a creature enters the battlefield, it will trigger when clone/bear cub would enter the battlefield. There's never a point in time where it is not that choice.
For example, if something triggered on green creatures entering the battlefield, that would trigger off the clone.
Bada bing, bada boom. There you go. Yep. You just wrote that. That's funny. That's right. Let's see. If the text that's being copied includes any abilities that replace the enters the battlefield event, such as like this creature enters the battlefield with blah blah blah, or as this creature enters the battlefield blah blah blah, those abilities will also take effect. So something that says like this creature will enter the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter for each creature card in your graveyard. If I clone is copying that creature, it will also enter the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter for each creature I control in the battlefield. It's copying that creature, and it does it as it enters the battlefield. So it is essentially that creature the moment it comes out of your hand. Also, any enters the battlefield triggered abilities of the copy will also have a chance to trigger. But that just goes without saying. Let's see. When you are copying a permanent, any choices that have been made for the permanent are not copied. Instead, if the object enters the battlefield as a copy of another permanent, you will get to make new choices for it. So if there's a what's that card in standard right now? Is it Metallic Mimic? So you can choose a creature type, right? I'm correct in saying that?
Yeah.
You're correct.
Yeah. So I have a Metallic Mimic. I've chosen, I don't know, Lurgoyf because I like to see the world burn. And I've chosen Lurgoyf as my creature of type. And then I cast a clone copying Metallic Mimic. Does that Metallic Mimic also have Lurgoyf?
No, because it copies the printed value, and Lurgoyf was not suddenly printed upon the card.
Exactly. I could choose Lurgoyf if I wanted to and make my Tarmogoyf even better, but I will be able to make a new choice for that card as he comes into the battlefield. And I'll name, I don't know, what's another obscure creature type in Magic? I don't know. Something obscure. Goat. I'll name Goat. Why not? So I'll name Goat. Let's see. There are a few things about the copying process that we do need to be made aware of. The copy effect could have some modifications or exceptions to the copying process. Seeing if I actually put the card in the library here. Did I? I got that one, but that's not the one I was looking for. That's fine. It's okay. Ah, yes, Scarab God. I'll actually pull that one up real quick. Let me shift my view. Come on, come here. More screen share options. Let's change the window. Application window. Oops, no, I was on the right one. That's right. Let's close this out. Yes, I want to quit. And we'll turn on screen share. Wait, where'd it go? Oh, wow, I actually closed out the program. Never mind, that's dumb. Everyone still hear me good?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I was just making sure I didn't actually close the whole thing out. Scarab God. Love me some Scarab God. Okay, now I'll turn the screen share back on because I have the right thing now. Hooray. Application window, share. Everyone can see the Scarab God?
Yep.
Hooray. So Scarab God does say, I can pay 2 blue and a black, exile target card from a graveyard, create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a 4/4 black zombie. So, let's say I have a Scarab God out on the field and I decide to copy Bear Cub. Bear Cub is in my graveyard. I pay the 2 blue and a black. I exile the Bear Cub from my graveyard. I create a token that is a copy of it. What are the characteristics of that Bear Cub?
It is a 4/4 black zombie creature with 1 and a green as its mana cost.
Does it have its mana cost?
Some copies, I believe so, right? I know some copies do, but tokens generally don't.
It doesn't specify a change, so it would.
It does not specify a change that would, because it just says create a token. That's a copy of it. The only things that we are having exceptions to is that instead of it being a 2/2, it is a 4/4. Instead of it being green, it's black. And instead of it being a bear, it's a zombie. There is one thing in standard, though, that does change that, however. Let's look at God Pharaoh's Gift. God Pharaoh's Gift says at the beginning of combat on your turn, you may exile a creature from your graveyard. If you do, you create a token that's a copy of it. Wait, no, that's not it.
That's the exact same thing,
It's
actually.
the exact same thing. There's no. There is a card that does not do a mana cost, though.
That's I think that's like Embalm.
That's what you're thinking. Yeah. Damn, it's embalmed or eternalized. Yeah, that's it. God, I look so dumb on this video now. Let's laugh at Ghost Dash. No, I'm just kidding. Let's see. I don't know. What's a cool one? Earthshaker.
Vizier of Many Faces.
Oh, Brazier. That's actually used more, I think, nowadays. If I could spell. There are many faces. There we go. Yeah. You may have Vizier of Many Faces enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except if Vizier of Many Faces was embalmed. The token has no mana cost. It's white, and it's a zombie in addition to its other types. So we do have a few other. We do some of the same things. No help text for embalm. I know, but it does say that the token would have no mana cost. So in this instance, even if I'm copying that Bear Cub, the Bear Cub is now white instead of green. It's a zombie and a bear, because it says in addition to its other types. It'll be a 2/2, and it has 0 mana cost.
And boy, have you wasted your Vizier.
Or have I wasted my Vizier? This is important because there was a point of contention at this when I was at Grand Prix Atlanta this past year, because a lot of people thought that you could, because Scarab God was making a token of a card, didn't have a mana cost. So you could Fatal Push anything that was created by Scarab God. Is that true?
No, absolutely not. Because
No, of course not.
They're copies, they still have a mana cost.
Mm-hmm. But there was a point of contention because, and I'm not making this up, I was at the call when a level 1 judge took the call, and this judge did give, unfortunately, the incorrect ruling, because they were under the impression that, oh yeah, tokens, they had no mana cost. Yeah, you can Fatal Push whatever that is. I overheard this. We talked for a little bit. We mentioned that there's a difference between this and the Embalming Eternalized thing, that the Embalming Eternalized does specify no mana cost. If I'm making a token of something, it does copy the mana cost. And that's when this level 1 judge said, but I was told by several level 3 judges that it works this way. So there's a little bit of contention on this point, but we did end up, I know, sure. But I actually, personally, I did actually tell John Aldifer about this, and he gives me that classic John Aldifer, like hands are clasped in front of him, arms are kind of like, and he's just kind of rocking back and forth on his heels. He was like, interesting. Classic John Aldifer pose. But that is one thing that we have exceptions for. If something is specifically mentioned within the copy effect, we do make those exceptions. Sometimes copy effects specifically state that they don't copy certain characteristics, just like these. Another great example is this awesome card. Where are you? Quicksilver Gargantuan. Quicksilver Gargantuan, you can have him. Battlefield is a copy of any creature, except it's still 7/7. It's a wonderful card. Sadly, didn't see a lot of play in the standard environment that it was in. I think it just cost too much.
Because the standard environment it was in still had Cawblade and Wormcoil Engine and Karn and just better cards.
I mean, yeah, but Quicksilver Gargantuan was just cool. I mean,
Oh, I agree, he's cool, but that standard format was busted sideways.
but yes. Except it's still a 7/7. So if I'm copying, if I'm gonna copy my Bear Cub with Quicksilver Gargantuan, what is that? What now is that Quicksilver Gargantuan? What is it?
It's a 7/7 Bear Cub.
It's a 7/7 Bear Cub. Yep, Bear Cub has been hitting the gym. Bear Cub's been getting a bit swole.
Not a cub anymore.
Let's see. Some copy effects will modify a characteristic as part of the copying process. Here's another good card that illustrates that. Good old Phyrexian Metamorph. It adds to the copy that it's making. So if I have Phyrexian Metamorph come in as a Bear Cub, I now have an artifact creature bear in addition to its other types. So copying of a permanent, fairly, it can seem complicated at times, but it's fairly straightforward. You are just simply looking at things simply looking at what's on the card, what is printed on the card, and you're just essentially making that, taking into account any type of exceptions that you may have as part of the copying process. I don't copy counters. That's not a part of the card. I do not copy whether it's tapped. I don't copy its status because that's not part of the card. I am simply copying the printed thing. That is what I am doing. So I'll give you guys. Let's see if I still. Yeah, I'll pull up the cards here. Let's see. So I have this card on the field. I have a Hooded Hydra on the field.
Face up or face down?
He is face up. Hooded Hydra currently has 5+1/+1 counters on it. It's for posterity's sake. Hooded Hydra enters with X+1/+1 counters on it. When Hooded Hydra dies, you put that many green snake creatures for each 1/1 creature you have on it. It does have a morph cost. It is 3 in green. As Hooded Hydra's turn face up, put 5+1/+1 counters on it. So I have that face up. I also happen to have this card face down. I have a Vesuvan Shapeshifter face down. As Vesuvan Shapeshifter comes into play or is turned face up, you may choose another creature in play. If you do until Vesuvan Shapeshifter is turned face down, it becomes a copy of that creature and gains at the beginning of your upkeep. You may turn this creature face down. Has a morph cost of 1 and a blue. I control a face down Vesuvan Shapeshifter, and I decide that I am going to copy my face up Hooded Hydra. What happens?
It dies.
Why would it die?
State-based effect. 0 tough.
So you're saying when my Vesuvan Shapeshifter is turned face up, it is copying the printed thing of Hooded Hydra, correct?
So then it
Oh, I
becomes
didn't see the
5/1
turn face up.
counters when it gets flipped.
Yeah, I didn't see that part. So I think
Yeah.
you would get 5 counters.
That is correct. Because Hooded Hydra does have the printed printed text of, as Hooded Hydra is turned face up, we put 5+1/+1 counters on it. And Vesuvan Shapeshifter copies it as it's turned face up. So there's, like I said, when we have the clone enter, there is no point where the clone enters in as a clone and then becomes Hooded Hydra. We always have it, or as Bear Cub, it always will become Bear Cub as it comes in. Same effect essentially applies here. When Vesuvan Shapeshifter turns up, it is turning up as a Hooded Hydra. And so when Hooded Hydra is turned face up, you put 5+1/+1 counters on it. It's a cute little effect. Cutesy stuff. Now there's another part about copy effects, though. We've copied permanents, but what about copying spells? Can anybody name a card that copies a spell?
Reiterate.
Fork, reverberate.
Twin cast. Reiterate, still my favorite.
Hold on, Nate.
Mizzix's Mastery.
Mizzix's Guildmage.
An important thing to note there is that even though Hydra's replacement effect wouldn't apply to the event prior to the copy of the replacement effect occurring, we recheck after applying each replacement effect to see if new ones would apply. That is correct. That is why this particular interaction works the way it does. That is a good point. Thank you, Nate. But yeah, you guys named
Nate. I was trying to figure out who Peha is.
That is Nate. That is Nathaniel Bass. But yeah, twin cast, all those good things. All those good things. To copy a spell, you can also copy an activated ability. You can also copy a triggered ability. It means to put a copy of it onto the stack. Is that copy cast, or is that copy placed?
It is placed. It is not cast.
It is not cast. Is the copied activated ability activated?
No.
No, it is not. To copy a spell or ability, it copies both the characteristics of the spell or ability and all decisions made for it, including modes, targets, and the value of X and additional alternative costs. Example, let me pull up this cool card. If I can spell it. Fireball! Fireball deals X damage divided evenly, rounded down, among any number of target creatures and or players, and Fireball costs 1 more to cast for each target beyond the first. Whenever we get to the class about the steps on casting a spell, Fireball will be playing a role. It's a fun little card. So let's assume that I have paid red +2/+1 because I want another target. So first of all, if I've paid +2/+1, what is the value of X?
3.
I've had to pay 1 extra to target something else.
Yeah, +2/+1, so X is 3 plus red.
No, X is 2, because he paid the additional to target. It doesn't get added to the damage.
X is 2. That is
okay.
That is correct. X is 2. Because I have to pay X2, and then if I want to target something else beyond that, I got to pay 1 more. So X does equal 2. The
That is a wacky-ass spell.
Fireball's fun. Let's see. Is an additional cost. Thank you. So let's decide. Let's say I copy Fireball. The Fireball that I've just paid. X equals 2. What will that copy of Fireball be doing?
It will be dealing 2 damage divided evenly among 2 targets.
The same target. Unless the spell that copies it specifies that you can choose new target.
Oh man, you're on top of it. Yes.
I don't think I've ever seen a copy spell that doesn't say that.
There are. I can't name any off the top of my head, but there are a couple.
I was just saying it so Ghost Ash couldn't get me on it.
Oh, okay.
You know me well. But yes, if I'm just blanket copying the spell, the X value will also be 2. The copy will also have the 1 additional target for a total of 2 targets, and the copy will also have the exact same targets as the original Fireball. I can't think of any off the top of my head right now, but there are a couple that say we just copy it. Most of them, I think you are correct in thinking that most of them do say you may choose new targets. Let's say I copy. Oh, I don't know. What's a fun one? Let's see.
One of the commands? I don't know what if you're looking for, but
I'm going to go Boros Charm.
there we go.
I cast Boros Charm. I choose the first mode. Boros Charm deals 4 damage to target player. I copy Boros Charm. What does that copy of Boros Charm do?
Deals 4 damage to target player. That player may or may not change.
Oh, but I can't choose new mode. I just copied the spell, Judge.
Yeah, the spell on the stack only has the one mode.
There you go. Yep. That's what I'm looking for. Yep.
Like if you cryptic command to counter and draw a card, and then you copy it, you're about to counter a spell again, and then also draw a card.
There we go. Let's see. How about this little fun one? If I can spell. How about if I copy a fire spout?
It will have whatever the original effects were.
Whatever on the stack, yeah. Whatever mana was spent is its effects on the stack, and those get copied. So what mana did you use to cast it the first time?
Paying a green and red mana.
And your copy made is dealing 3 damage to everything.
I want you to look very closely at the wording on Fire Spout.
It's not cat.
Very specific word I'm looking for.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
not
you didn't
cast.
It
cast
says
it.
cast, but wouldn't it, because it was like part of the text of the original card? Oh no, because it's not like a command where it has like the text printed on it, so the copy would deal 0 damage.
Yep, you got it. You got there. Good
Wow,
job.
that is miserable.
Yeah. Did I cast the copy of Fire Spout?
No, you did not.
No. So does it do diddly squat?
You also very well might. You also almost couldn't have spent green mana on it. So
Yeah, I didn't cast it, so I get to do nothing for it. The mana being paid to cast the spell, not part of the things that we copy for it. Not what we do. Choices that are normally made upon resolution are not copied, mainly because when we were copying a spell in the stack, it hadn't resolved yet. So if there's a choice to be made upon resolution of a spell, we will get to make choices for each copy, essentially. If the effect of the copy would refer to objects used to pay its costs, it uses the objects used to pay the cost of the original spell. I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head, but I really can't.
Converge.
That probably, yeah, I think that sounds about right. Whatever type of decision. Well, no, wrong word. Like I said, if the object references objects used to pay the costs, the copies will also reference that as well. I'm not forced to remake all of those payments for the copies because I'm just simply copying whatever is on the stack. Let's see. Check my notes here. Make sure there's nothing else that anything important that I'm leaving out. Let's see. Real quickly, because sometimes it can happen. If a copy of a spell is in a zone other than the stack, what happens?
If a copy of a spell, what?
Is in any zone other than the stack,
It
what happens?
ceases to exist.
It doesn't exist. Same
Yep.
thing that happens to tokens.
Goes bye-bye. If a copy of a card is in any zone other than the stack or the battlefield, what happens?
Was the copy in the form of a clone, or was it an eternalize, embalm type thing?
I'm more thinking of like the Eternalize them.
Then it just ceases to exist.
Mm-hmm. But let's say, for example, I do have a clone. I clone the Bear Cub. Okay?
Mhm.
So on the battlefield, what is the clone?
It is a 2/2 Bear Cup.
Good. Someone fatal pushes the clone. It goes to the graveyard. What is
It
that?
is now a 4-cost 0/0 shapeshifter.
It is a clone. The Bear Cub part of it will cease to exist. Well, not necessarily like cease to exist, but it gets its original characteristics back when it's not on the battlefield, essentially. Let's see. That's pretty much it when it comes to the whole copying of targets and spells thing. It's fairly straightforward, fairly simple. Let me pull out my deck, and I think I had a couple little scenarios here that we were going to talk about. Let me get my actual questions, though. Ooh, excuse me. Oh, yeah, here we go. Sweet, this will be fun. Let's load up my Judge deck. I could load up Pauper Elves, but I'll load up Judge Deck first. All right, ready to start. All right, cool. I'm just going to. I don't know. I will just draw. I'll just draw all the cards. Hooray! All right, let's see. I cast an Empty the Warren. Let's say Storm count is. Let's say Storm count is 2. Okay, let's just keep it simple. Storm count's 2. Cool. So right now, how many Goblin tokens am I getting? Storm count's at 2. How many Goblin?
You're going to get 6 tokens.
I'm gonna get 6 tokens. But I like to play dangerously, and I'm gonna cast Twin Cast on my Empty the Warrens.
You're going to get 8 tokens.
8 tokens. What's your reasoning?
Because you didn't cast the set. The Twin Cast creates a copy. The copy is not cast. Storm requires a cast to trigger, so it doesn't double. You just get 8.
I like that answer. I believe that is correct. Yep. Not cast. Do not get an additional Storm trigger. I'm just copying the Empty the Warrens spell. You are correct. Put that. Let's see. Make sure. No, I think I'm going to use Empty Warp again. Let's see. So, I'll put you down here. All right, let's say I'm going to play dangerously. I cast Empty the Warrens first spell of my turn. So that I'm just going to get 2 tokens. Pretty easy. I'm going to cast Twin Cast, copying Empty the Warrens again. So how many tokens am I up to now?
4.
Good. But my opponent has a mana leak in hand. Can he mana leak that copy?
He can mana leak the copy. He could also mana leak the original, and the copy would fizzle without a target. Or the Twin Cast would fizzle without a target.
Yeah, that would work. If you want to play smart. But
If we're not playing smart, yeah, he can mana leak the Twin Cast, or he could let the Twin Cast resolve and then mana leak the target of Empty the Warrens. Or mana leak the copy of Empty the Warrens is what I meant to say, sorry.
Yeah. Copy is on the stack. It is an object on the stack. It is a viable target for mana leak. Good job. Alrighty. We'll put those in the graveyard. We are done with those questions. Good job. Where's my next? Oh, yeah, we already did my Hooded Hydra and my Vesuvian Shapeshifter question. Let's see. That one. Where's my next one? Here we go. Sky Eel School. It is a 3/3 fish creature flying. When Sky Eel School enters the battlefield, draw a card, then discard a card. I have this on the battlefield, and then I'm going to cast Clone. Clone enters as a Sky Eel School. What happens?
You draw a card and discard a card.
You sure about that?
Yeah. It says when it enters the battlefield, Clone enters the battlefield as Sky Eel School. It is never not Clone. It enters the battlefield as the thing, so it triggers its ability.
There you go. Yep, you got it. Let's see. Real quickly, if I create a copy of Colligan's Command, can I change the modes?
No.
Nope.
Nope, you got it. Good. Sounds good. Sounds good. Seems like you guys got a pretty good handle on the whole copy thing. No biggie right there. I can't remember what I had Jace deck for. Chase.
Did you have anything that enters as a copy of a Planeswalker? Because that'd be a neat trick.
No, I don't really know why I've got Jason.
It was probably like if you bounce a copied thing, what happens to it? Something like that.
I don't know.
That would explain the
Maybe I
momentary
just
blink as
I
well.
don't know. Maybe I just enjoy Jace. Who knows? What about the new Jaces that copy himself? Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why I had Jace there. It's weird. Maybe I just misclicked or something. I don't know. But yeah, all right. So we covered some copying. We covered the copies of permanents. We covered copies of spells. You guys did pretty well on that. You guys knocked it out of the park. So now we're going to cover a few of the more common keywords that you will see. And there are a lot of keywords in Magic, as you can no doubt guess. but we are particularly concerned on what we call the evergreen keywords. These are things like Death Touch, Enchant, First Strike, all the keywords that you are very familiar with. But I'm only going to talk about a few. And not to really go away, fly. Not to bore too much. And for L1 testing, understanding keywords in standard is sufficient. It's very, very true. One quick note. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't need to ever know every single one ever. But maybe I'll want to really learn banding and island home. What about island home? Real quick, anybody know what island home is?
What is?
Island home?
I will in a second. Hold on.
That's a Google question.
Is that
Island
the
home?
enchantment that prevents people from attacking you? No, that's Island Sanctuary.
Yeah.
Is an island home you can only attack if you control an island?
You know what? It's island home. I don't even think I know.
If defending player controls no islands, this creature cannot attack. If you control no islands, bury this creature.
There you go. That's island home. That is that keyword is what's the?
That sounds like some future sight nonsense. I can't find that here.
Oh no, that's the old stuff.
Island hold or island home?
HOLME is the end of it.
Oh.
Yeah, it's weird, but it is it is no longer a keyword. It has been, I guess, retired is the best word for it. But yeah, anyway, let's talk first about one of my favorite keywords of all time. I don't know. Hey, Sam, you want to be a judge?
Yes.
Cool, judge.
Yes.
I have this creature. It's a really, really cool creature, and it has this thing called Trample. What does that mean?
Trample means that when a creature is assigning combat damage, if any creatures are blocking it, it has to assign enough damage to destroy the creature that's blocking it, and then any additional damage that it could deal, it can deal to the defending player instead.
Or planeswalker.
I like that's a solid answer. I like it. I like it. I mean, I can see no real fault in it. No, that's pretty much what Trample is. You pretty much got it. That's right. Oh wait, Nate has a by the way. Oh, did you find something with Island Home? Or what is that? Island Fish Jaconius? That's awesome. I don't know what that is, but that's awesome. Anyway, yeah, Trample. So Trample means that if this creature is blocked, any damage after it would kill the blocking creature gets to hit the player. It is very important that we have a understanding about what lethal damage means, because lethal damage is kind of how Trample works. So what does it mean by lethal damage?
Damage that would be enough to kill the creature outside of extenuating circumstances. For example, if a 2/2 with Indestructible only has to have 2 damage assigned to it, even though that 2 damage will not kill it.
Also, stuff like Death Touch makes it so that a 5/5 with Trample can deal 1 damage to each blocker, and then assign any additional damage left over to the player.
Okay, good. Yeah, lethal damage it essentially means, in a nutshell, damage that would kill it. Whether that means that it is the damage equal to the toughness, or as someone pointed out, Death Touch, it means that any amount of damage dealt by this creature would be considered lethal. So, for example, I think Nate posted it up there. Death Touch plus Trample is a fairly lethal combination. It's pretty awesome. Hey, Judge.
Yes.
yes. Yeah. I tell you, whenever someone calls Judge at a large event, we are quite literally like little meerkats out on the prairie. All of our heads will just turn the exact same way because we're just all attuned. I hear Judge when I'm at like Walmart. It is just something I hear now. But hey, Judge, this thing It says vigilance. What does that do?
Creature does not tap to attack.
Oh, so I can just I can just say this is attacking and it's attacking. I don't have to tap it anymore.
It does not tap to attack. I feel like you're trying to words lawyer me, but when it attacks, it does not tap. I feel like there's a trick coming in here.
No, I was just being a new player. I would suggest trying to avoid the phrase of "I think you're trying to rules lawyer me," just because that seems a little confrontational. I would.
No, I'm just. I feel like you were trying to get me with a gotcha.
Oh no, I was just asking what vigilance was. No gotchas.
Yeah. The creature doesn't tap to attack. That's it.
No gotchas here. I am a brand new player playing Magic for the first time at Gen Con. I don't know.
But knowing that you're Ghost Dash, it's a fair say that you can.
Yeah. If you're with you as the guy in the guise of new player, no, you're not trying to rules lawyer me. The answer would have been that's it.
Yeah. Assume, especially for these keyword questions that I give you, assume I'm a new player.
Okay.
Got it.
That might make more sense. But yeah, attacking doesn't cause this creature to tap. There you go.
What is the interaction with trample and fighting?
Trample and fighting?
Like a thing that makes two creatures deal damage to each other?
Yeah, like say I have a creature with trample and I cast Remoka's command.
There isn't one. They just they fight. There's no attacking, so there's no defending player or planeswalker, so no damage can bleed over it. It doesn't make a difference.
Yes, trample works very specifically with combat damage.
Okay.
If it's just two creatures fight each other, they just fight. There is no I can't cause a creature to fight. I can't cause my 6/6 trampler to fight a 1/1 and then deal 5 to you. It'll just deal 6 to the 1/1 because it's going to pummel that 1/1 because fight.
Boy, Dramoka's command would have been a lot better like that.
It'd be like a $50 rare. But no, that's a really good question. Let's see.
No, they just deal their damage to each other.
First strike works with Dramoka's command. I like that.
Because that's not first strike is also combat damage.
Is first strike combat damage? Is first strike combat damage?
First strike is a 702.7a. First strike is a static ability that modifies the rules of the combat damage step.
That's the important part. First strike isn't essentially combat damage. It just modifies how we deal combat damage insofar that it creates another step. I know that's being very words picky, but it is.
See that right there? That's why I did that.
But it is important because I would not want a judge to tell a newer player that first strike modifies damage. It doesn't really work that way. It's why I don't get necessarily peeved, but I do get a little worrisome when people say, when they say, I've got double strike, what's that? What's it? Phyrexian
Crusader?
Phyrexian Crusader, that has double strike.
Or no, Mirror Crusader has double strike.
No, Mirror Crusader, that's the double strike. But they're like, Mirror Crusader deal 4. It just kind of I don't know, it just kind of irks me because it doesn't deal 4. It deals 2
twice.
and 2. You're just assuming that you're not going to be blocking. So I don't know. I would be very careful because, especially for when you're interacting with a newer player that might not understand how first strike works or how double strike works, really take the time to go through that. Especially with first strike, it deals its damage first. With double strike, it's first strike and regular damage. You're not saying that it just modifies damage. You're not saying it deals double damage. You wouldn't want to say that because that kind of leads into a dark territory where people misunderstand how double strike works. If I just said, hey, double strike means it deals double damage, then there might be some attacking and blocking that they assume would happen. So for example, I have Mirror Crusader out. It has double strike, protection from black and red. that what it is? I think so. I think it's protection from black. And I block it with a 2/2 something. 2/2 something that's not black or red. 2/2 Bear Cub. We'll throw my 2/2 Bear Cub in front of Mirror Crusader. If I said that Double Strike deals double damage, and players assumed that, what do you think they would do when they go to the combat damage step of this blocking arrangement? What do you think would happen?
I missed that. I missed that full scenario. The Mirror Crusaders attacking, and what choice is being made wrong.
Someone has told them that double strike means double damage, and the Mirror Crusader is being blocked by a 2/2 Bear Cub. How do you think they would handle that situation?
They would think that their creature is able to kill Mirren Crusader because it would still take 2 because it's just dealing double, which would be correct.
Yeah.
This is something that I have seen. This is something that I have had to inform players about. Because some people will they assume things about how abilities work. Double strike, it's just deal double damage. No, it's not exactly what it means. We have other things at play here.
That's why we have reminder text.
That's why sometimes we have reminders that goes right. But yeah, just go into. It does lie sometimes. Sometimes it does lie. Be aware that when we are talking about these keyword abilities, a good understanding of the mechanics of them and how to explain them to a player that does not know how they work really does a good service to the community as a whole, because there is tons of misinformation out there, and it's our jobs to combat that. But we've covered that's a good conversation about double strike, first strike, death touch, trample. We talked a little bit about fighting. What's flash mean?
The spell may be played anytime you may play an instant.
There you go. I can play it anytime I can play an instant. That's right. So could I flash in a creature on my untap step?
No, because you can't play an instant during your untap step.
So what?
No, because you can't play an instant during your untap step.
You remember. Good job. What about hexproof? What does hexproof mean?
It means the spell is not a legal target for spells or abilities, or the creature, whatever.
You're talking about shroud.
Your opponent's spells or
your opponent's spells or abilities. You're right.
There we go. That's hexproof. Yeah, you were saying shroud.
I missed shroud. Shroud was fair.
Let's see. All right. You know what? Let's just dive into some questions here. Let's just dive into some scenarios, shall we? Let's see. All right. Everyone's still on cockatrice, correct?
Yes.
On yours,
Yes.
yeah.
9, yeah. Cool. What creature did I just play?
Rootbreaker Worm.
I played a Rootbreaker Worm. What is it?
It's a 7-mana creature, subtype worm, 6/6 with trample.
It is a 6/6 with trample. And so begins the scenarios. Here we go. We're going to have some fun. So I have a 6/6 with trample. And I'll just bring up my bear cub back out. So I attack with my Rootbreaker Worm. My opponent blocks with bear cub. What happens?
You assign 2 damage to the bear cub and 4 damage to the defending player.
Okay. Good. So my opponent would be taking would be taking 4. And then bear cub would be dead, right?
Yep.
Cool.
Hey, when you assign the damage to that bear cub, you don't have to assign just 2. Player could choose to put 3 or 4 damage on that bear cub for insurance if they wanted to.
You are exactly correct. Good catch. I like that. Good job. Yes, I am only required to put on lethal damage. Does not mean I can't put on more if I chose to.
But putting that insurance doesn't matter since damage doesn't use the stack anymore, right? Like, there's no reason to do that.
Does not use the stack, no. But I could just, if I wanted to, I could just put, I'll deal Bear Cub 3 because Bear Cub looked at me funny. What do I care? I got a Root Breaker Worm. I'm not scared.
You could put the damage on the bear cub if the player has an effect, something that if they take damage, they get tokens out of it, and you don't want to give them 5 tokens. You only want to give them 3.
Oh, you're talking if the player takes damage,
Yes.
they'll get so much tokens. Yeah,
Correct.
you could totally just assign everything to the Bear Cub if you wanted to, and assign nothing to the player. You totally could.
Okay.
At that point, you might as well have not attacked.
Oh, but screw Bear Cub. Bear Cub looked at me funny. But yeah, all right. So I'm going to be nice and shifty here, and I'm going to cast Deadly Allure and target my Root Breaker Worm with Deadly Allure. So what does Deadly Allure give it?
Death touch.
Gains a death touch, and it must be blocked. Lure.
Yeah, it's got Death Touch, and it must be blocked, whatever. I was really just looking for a spell that gave it Death Touch. Yeah, so now my Root Breaker Worm has Death Touch, Trample, and I attack with it. And Bear Cub has to block. So what is the maximum amount of damage that I could do to the player?
5.
5, exactly. I can deal 1 damage to the Bear Cub from Death Touch. And Death Touch means that I have assigned any amount of non-zero damage is lethal damage. And Trample says, hey, when I'm done with non-lethal damage or lethal damage, I can just hit face with everyone else. So I will deal 5 to the player. Good job. All right. So my Root Breaker Worm has Death Touch and Trample. Death Touch and Trample. And let's see here. Let's say my opponent has a Hill Giant and a Grizzly Bears in play. So he has Death Touch, Trample, and he has to be blocked. He attacks, and all 3 of these guys block my Root Breaker Worm. What happens?
You deal 1 damage to each of 3 creatures, and then assign 3 damage to the player, and then your worm dies a painful death, as well as all 3 of those things.
There you go. Yeah, seems good to me. Seems like you got the mechanics down. All right. So are you ready for the fun one?
Absolutely. I sense a battle rage.
Let's do the fun one. These guys can go away. All right. So I have a Root Breaker Worm. It has Death Touch. It has Trample. And it has to be blocked this turn if able. Sure?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Awesome. I am going to be very, very sneaky. And I'm going to cast Teamer Battle Rage on my Root Breaker Worm. So what is that Root Breaker Worm now?
Trample, death touch, and double strike.
And Double Strike. And it's got to be blocked, right?
Yes.
Cool.
It also has a second instance of trample that is redundant.
Yeah, sure, whatever. My opponent is going to be very, very sneaky. My opponent's going to be very, very sneaky. He's going to cast White Sun Zenith. X equals 5.
Then he's going to get blown out.
Well, let's see. So let me create. I think I can create predefined tokens. Do
It's
I have?
right, yeah, predefined, and then you can just find the cat.
What's up?
Or you can just do custom token to save yourself some time.
There we go. Green, and it's going to be not blue. It's going to be white. Great. There, and then I get to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cool. So, well, they're green. They're supposed to be white. It doesn't matter. So now, we're still in. By the way, he's attacked. We are still in the declare attackers step. So my opponent is casting all of these at the end of declare attack. And once it's the wrong power toughness. No, it's not. It's a 2/2.
Also, the White Suns they should be in your library.
You know what? Fine. There. I got 1 card in my library. In opponent's library, which is now also my library. Keeping it simple. Go.
Shut.
Gosh. Okay, Frank, if you need to, let's see. Yep. Sure, if you gotta head out for the night, it was good having you here. And like I said, we'll get this episode up and running as soon as we can get it uploaded. Thank you for joining us. Pleasant having you. And we hope to see you next time, and we'll get a date for that next time soon. But good meeting you. Good seeing you again. Thanks for coming, and we'll see you again soon. Alrighty.
All right. Thank you.
Back to the question. Here we go. And because my opponent is also real sneaky, he's going to cast a Boros Charm. And he's going to choose mode number 2. Permanents you control gain indestructible until end of turn. So now he has 5 2/2 cat tokens with indestructible. He will block all of these, block my Rootbreaker Worm. My opponent is at 3 life. Is my opponent dead?
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely. He's
7
very dead. Your opponent is first strike damage rolls around and he takes 1. Normal combat damage rolls around and he takes 6. And your worm dies.
Are you exactly sure that's how Death Touch works?
Yes.
Hmm.
No, because he'll have to redo the damage to the creatures on the second step that the double strike generates. So he'll only take 2.
Why would he have to redo the damage? Because let's go first. First strike damage happens. What do we do during the first strike damage step?
Hold
You
up,
do.
I'm gonna go look up the actual rules text for
You do.
double strike and first strike.
You do
You-
you do 1 damage to each of the cats and then assign remaining damage to the player.
Sure, I agree with that play. 1 damage is dealt to each of the cats because Death Touch says anything more than non-zero is lethal, and Trample says that once I've assigned lethal damage to a creature, anything else happens over. Assign 1 damage to each cat. That is considered lethal damage, and then 1 will trample over. My opponent is now at 2. Now we're in regular strike damage.
Lethal damage is already assigned to each cat, so I don't see why you would need to assign more lethal damage to each cat.
Why do you think lethal damage has already been assigned?
Because you assigned lethal damage. You assigned 1 damage with Death Touch, which is, as we just discussed, lethal.
Yeah, but wouldn't that be for that instance of
I mean,
damage, though? Because you have to,
indestructible doesn't remove the damage. Damage is removed during cleanup, and the text on indestructible is they just aren't destroyed by lethal damage. It's still marked.
Okay.
So
This is correct. Mm-hmm.
It's double strike. It's double strike, Death Touch, trample. Nate.
This is true. You are describing indestructible very correctly. But
so,
let us
so the way the
let us
trample is
observe.
worded-
Well, no, keep talking it out. Keep talking it out.
Okay, so the way the trample is worded, I think that he wouldn't be dead because with trample, it says that where is it? When checking for assigned lethal damage, take into account damage already marked on the creatures and damage from other creatures that's being assigned during the same combat damage step.
Okay. So when we're taking into account damage already marked on the creature, what does that mean?
That means the damage that would. I don't understand. The damage is already on the creature.
Sure.
Exactly, but I think that means it needs to because it needs to check for because the creature's not dead on the second combat step. If it didn't have Death Touch, it would see that 1 damage is marked and would need to deal 1 more because they're 2/2s. But
It
so
still
that
has
part
Death
doesn't really
Touch.
matter. Yeah, I know, but
it still has Death Touch, but they aren't dead. And I don't know how Death Touch is worded, but I would assume it's just like any amount of damage, kill. But then you would have to check again on the second instance of damage. And it
Any
doesn't.
non-zero amount of combat damage assigned to a creature by a source with Death Touch is considered to be lethal damage for the purposes of determining if a proposed combat damage assignment is valid. 702.2c.
Yeah, but remember, double strike and first strike generate separate combat steps or separate damage steps within. So would that affect it all, Ghost Ash, or am I just overthinking it?
I would like to take this opportunity very quickly to thank Derek Smitty Smith for this question because it was his brilliant mind that did come up with this one. So, Smitty, my hat is off to you. There's a reason we call this Schrodinger's cat. So, at the end of the first strike damage step, we have each cat. Can I mark damage on here? I thought I could. I'll just put a counter on it. So they each have 1 damage marked. And when we deal the damage, the worm has Death Touch, and the Death Touch damage says, hey, guess what? I dealt you 1 damage. You are dead. What does Indestructible say to that?
It says that it doesn't die to lethal damage.
Exactly. Indestructible says, cool story, bro, but you didn't work. And then Death Touch says, dang it. Maybe next time. So now we move on to the regular damage. It is very important to note that Death Touch works once. It works when it deals the damage. When we move into the regular damage step and we are assigning lethal damage, the Rootbreaker Worm, when it assigns lethal damage, sees 5 cats with 1 damage marked on it. That's it. Death Touch has already tried to happen, but it failed. So it only has 1 damage marked on each cat. That's it. So what would I have to do then?
You would have to reassign quote-unquote lethal damage to each cat in order to...
I would have to reassign the lethal damage because the 1 damage creature is still lethal. It's a 2/2 creature with 1 damage on it. It's not dead yet, is it? So I would have to reassign 1/1/1/1/1 down to each cat. And then that would mean that how much damage would trample over to the player?
1 on each damage step.
Which would leave my player at 1. And now the cats would have 2 damage marked on them. And were it not for Indestructible, they would be dead. Is my Rootbreaker Worm dead?
Very, yes.
Yeah. Super dead, yes. So, in this scenario, my opponent was at 3 life, but I was only able to get him down to 1. And he is not dead. Sad to say.
Since the last time state-based actions were checked. There's the line I was looking for.
But. There is a but. Did you know that I could kill the player?
By momentary blinking one of the tokens?
Or echoing truth.
I have no hand.
Oh.
That doesn't, I have no hand. Right now, we are back. I have just now attacked, and I'll remove the counter. I have just now attacked. All these creatures are blocking. I said remove the counter. Why didn't you go? There we go. I can kill the player.
Please explain how.
Oh, no, you guys got to figure
it out.
I don't remember Death Touch working like that.
The first time you assign 2 damage to each of 3 cats, and then the second, on normal combat damage step, you assign 1 damage to each of 2 remaining cats, as the other 3 already have lethal damage on them, and trample 4.
Bada bing, bada boom. There it is. Because even though I have Death Touch, that does not mean that I have to only assign 1 damage, right?
Yeah.
That's cool.
No, I can just assign essentially however much damage I want to, as Mr. I think Frank Ogden pointed that out earlier, right? I think he was on the
Yeah, that was him.
Yeah. As he pointed out earlier, I can assign however much damage I want to during combat damage step. So I could essentially deal 2 damage here, and I could deal 2 damage here, and I could deal 2 damage here during my first combat damage step. I have assigned all 6 damage. I have assigned lethal damage essentially to 1, 2, and 3, and I got to remove the count here. I have satisfied all my requirements for lethal damage in the first strike step. Now I move on to regular or normal combat damage. I will now see 2 cats that have 2 damage marked on them. What does that mean?
That's lethal damage, even though they're indestructible.
That's considered lethal damage because it's 2 damage on a 2/2 creature. That's enough for it to be considered lethal damage. So I don't have to touch them. I can now deal 1 damage to this guy 1 damage to this guy, and I can hit my opponent for 4. That is why we call this Schrodinger's cat question, because it all depends on how you assign damage to.
That's so cool.
But it also teaches you, it shows you very well how trample interacts, how death touch interacts, how first and double strike interacts, because essentially double strike is first strike in normal, and even how indestructible works. These are very common keywords that you'll see. We did talk about a few of the other keywords that you will also see as well. And a lot of the keywords that you like, flying, reach, things like that. These are very intuitive. Flying means you fly over the things. Reach means you can touch things that have. These are very intuitive keywords. So if you have a good understanding of really, I think the most common questions that you will receive, especially from players, and when it comes to the level 1 test, the most common questions that I think you will receive will be over death touch and trample. These are two of the most common keywords, and the interaction between the two of them is very, very common for people to try to figure out. But if you can understand this question, you have death touch and trample down, because this question really gets into the nitty gritty of how far we can push this idea. But yeah, I can totally kill that player, which is kind of cool. But yeah, so that is my lesson. That is my lesson for tonight. We've covered the keywords. We've covered how to copy stuff. You guys did a really, really bang-up job. I'm actually super proud of my candidates tonight. And I would like to make one very quick little pitch. And I just do this for posterity. I saw a little bit of it in this judge study group that I'm a part of, but when we are judges, we are seen as ambassadors. And I know I say that word quite often when it comes to being a judge, but we are ambassadors. We uphold the game, and players look to us for guidance. They look to us for rulings. They look to us to help explain complicated concepts, but we're still seen as leaders. We're looked up to in the community. It would behoove you to be a good person. And I know that sounds very obvious or very basic, but you'd be surprised by some of the, well, maybe you wouldn't be surprised, but there can be a lot of callousness. There can be a lot of, for lack of a better phrase, a lot of salty in Magic. And it can trickle its way into the judge program. It can trickle its way all the way up to professional players. As a judge, please always make sure that when it comes to if you feel, always check yourself. People have a right, if they have what it takes. You can be arrogant about certain things. I will admit I am arrogant when it comes to drumming and percussion. Playing drums since I was 3 years old. I've taught percussion professionally for 7 years. I'm kind of a little arrogant about it, but I do know what I'm talking about. But arrogance does not mean that you can hold it against someone or push it. And I think a lot of people within, or at least people that want to be a judge, at least from what I've seen, tend to forget that, and tend to forget that we are community leaders. So as a personal note from me to you, be a good person. And when we're judging, always remember that. Always keep that in the forefront of your mind, that we are there to serve the community. And when we serve the community well, with a smile on our face and having fun with the players, it makes the community all the more. I have seen judges that are not that, and it degrades the community because the people that they are supposed to be looking up to for guidance are talking down to them. And that hurts more than the worst incorrect ruling you could ever give in a situation. Just being a unapproachable person hurts more than any type of bad ruling you could ever give. So, just as a personal note, I know I rambled for a little bit, but just be a good person. And as always, stay positive, have a smile, always open. So that is my lesson for tonight. As I mentioned earlier, the next lesson that we will be covering will be layers, the interaction of continuous effects. That is a fun little topic, and I do believe Nathaniel said that he would be willing to take that one on. Nathaniel, whenever you get a chance, let me know what is a good day for you, and we'll post it here in the Discord channel. It doesn't have to be a Tuesday. I just pick Tuesdays because I generally don't really have going on. But if you're not busy, like on a Saturday or whenever, just let us know and give us plenty of time so that we can play. I know that you're 8 for 8 on Grand Prix this. Have a Saturday open, but like I said, just let us know a day that you're open, and we'll schedule around. I think I'm gonna try also maybe to get April Miller to do a class because I know she did. Talk to her later. But that's my class, and hope you guys have a great night. You guys are getting out there and playing some Magic, and while you make sure you're judging, because all this rules and crazy stuff doesn't really mean diddly squat. Actively out there judging and trying to improve the community as well. So I hope everyone has a great night, and we'll see you guys next time. Have a good one, everyone.